Good morning, I'm Bill Cook from the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension in Greenlee. Today we're pruning some fruit trees, and this right here in front of me is a plum tree. Now the same general principle applies to plums, apricots, cherries, most of the stone fruit with the exception of peaches and nectarines, which are a whole different thing. So what makes these different, and what do we have to know to be pruning on them? Well, the first thing is last summer's growth. This is called scion, and you can see it's smooth and shiny, and those are leaf buds. Now there are some apricots that will develop a fruit bud on the scion, but most of the stone fruit doesn't. So this is the scion, last summer's growth, no fruit there. But we come down here to the previous year's growth. You can see right here, this branch, this is where I made the cut a year ago. So we come down in here to the 2-year-old wood, and you'll see that there's fruit buds. We come back in further to the 3rd year and the 4th year wood, and there's a lot of fruit buds. We get all the way back in here to 5-year-old wood, and there's still fruit buds, but they're starting to look a little bit on the sad side. We get back there 5 and 6 years, no more fruit buds. So this particular scion will bear fruit for the next from 2 to 5 years from now. So that's a good thing to know when you're pruning, because it helps to know where the fruit is so that you can develop the placement of the fruit, because that's a real big portion of what you're doing when you're pruning. We're determining where we want the fruit to hang. Typically, you want to try to develop your fruit on horizontal wood. The reason being, if fruit hangs on a vertical piece of wood, it will rub as the wind blows. So the horizontal wood allows fruit to hang nicely and unobstructed and undamaged. So to achieve this, the first thing we do is we take out anything that's dead, diseased, or damaged, which I'm not really seeing any of that on this tree because I've been pruning it pretty regular. But there are a few things here that need to come out. I mentioned the horizontal growth right there. That's a nice limb, but any plums hanging on that will be of very poor quality. So we're going to take this out. We're going to just work our way right up the tree. So we're developing a limb here. One of the things we're after is shape and balance. So I'm looking at this. That's way more than we want. However, these two here are pretty nice side branches. These two are pretty nice. So I'm going to take these two out. And because I want to encourage more branching, I'm going to go up here a ways, and I'm going to cut to a bud that's pointing in the direction I want this tree to grow. So what it did here, it will now do there. So we're developing limbs as we go. So here's something that's rubbing. We'll come in here, we'll cut it back. And we'll just work our way around the tree. And again, here we've got an awful lot. There's last year's cut. Here's 2 growing right up through the middle, 1 nice one. So I'm going to take those 2 out. And we'll just kind of work our way around. This is pretty nice up here. Last year's cut again. And one of the things we're after here is balance. If all the fruit hangs on one side or the other, it'll twist. It'll like that. So what we want is this limb to have a nice even balance. actually this right here will open it up, make for a nicer branch. This one here, I come in there one nice cut, opens that up pretty good. So we'll just work our way around. What I'm doing here is I'm making this grow out into this open space. Come up here, there's a nice limb. So I've cut that back to 3. I want to give this a little nip here where I would like it to begin branching out. These trees are very vigorous. One of the hazards I have found on these oriental varieties of plum is that if you get a little too aggressive with them, they will get revenge. They'll grow like crazy next year and you'll have a ton of detail work. The inside will grow up with sprouts. It won't be a good situation. So fairly easy does it. Stuff that's growing straight up comes out. Now, we've found ourselves in a situation here where we're just a little bit crowded, so something is going to have to come out. Now, obviously, this limb here is growing up between two really nice limbs that I intend to keep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here. I'm not going to remove it completely. I'm going to shorten it up, and I'm going to leave a little bit of fruit hanging in right there. So now, what about this limb? It's crossing here, it's crossing here. That one really needs to come out too. And again, I'm going to come back here to an area where it has a little side shoot, and we'll see if we can fill in that hole. So now we're looking pretty darn good here. However, I think this limb is a bit much, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make that the new limb right there. See how that's growing into wide open spaces? That's a good place to get some plums. Now we have all this up here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to encourage some horizontal growth there. And because there's a limb here and a limb here, one of these two has to go. Going to be that one. We've opened up this area and we've kept 2 nice limbs. So we're getting to a point here now where everything's up off the ground a little bit. I like pruning with a ladder for a couple of reasons. One of them is that when you're pruning off of a ladder, you're developing fruit where you're going to pick off of a ladder. Makes life a little easier. So as I go, I develop what I call a ladder set. There's a place right in here where I can push that ladder in and reach the middle of the tree to prune or pick. So we're going to come right on up here. And cut that. Want that one growing over that way a little bit. And there we have that nice one going that way. There's something that's crossed over. And That's all I can reach from the ladder where it is right now. So, in the process of doing this, I have opened up some ladder sets. As the tree grows, they're good to have. So I'm going to cut this to a Y. And always remember, you can prune it again next year. If you leave a little bit in there and you're thinking, well, maybe I ought to take that out, it's not hurting anything. You can always take more out next year. So there you have it. There is a pruned plum tree. Again, this is the same way you would treat an apricot or a cherry.